you learn to love like the challenges because you're like, oh man, this is gonna, how's this gonna help me? How's this gonna get me to that next step and get me to the next level?
Welcome to the Startup Heroes Podcast, a place to learn about business from local Chattanooga superheroes sharing their entrepreneurial journey, their superpowers, kryptonite, sidekicks, and villains. You'll learn about the principles and actions it took these founders to build their dreams, and hopefully be inspired to do the same. Thank you for listening.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Startup Heroes. I'm your host, Christopher Wood, with...
I'm Nate Tucker.
I'm Michael Artizabal.
And our guest...
Dr. Bryan Stotz.
Thanks for being here today, Bryan.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited. So I think a good way for us to start is just if you'll tell us what the name of your business is and just give a little description on what it is. And I'm going to read your introduction that'll kind of give people a little more insight into your professional background.
Sure. Yeah, so our business is called Rev, a Center for Optimal Living. We're our vitalistic chiropractic office located on the North Shore of Chattanooga. Our approach is really different than what most people think of when they go to a chiropractor. They think, twisting, cracking, popping, working on neck pain, back pain. Definitely help people with that. We see that a lot in our office, but our main focus is on working with the bioenergetics of the nervous system. And from what we know, your nervous system is how you take in everything in your environment. It's how you process stress. It's how you handle challenges and hardships in your life. And anytime we don't handle those things as well, that tends to store within our body in different ways, can manifest as different things, aches and pains being one of them, but anxiety, depression, autoimmune conditions. And so we really help work with the nervous system to help people process through that stuff so that they can function optimally from within.
Man, that's cool. So that's what your business does. And then I'm going to read a quick bio about you yourself. So Dr. Bryan Stotz is a father, husband, chiropractor, fitness enthusiast, aspiring guitarist, coffee lover, and health seeker. He believes that everyone has the potential to live with optimal health and vitality and live an authentic life regardless of age or current health status. He owns Rev, a Center for Optimal Living in North Chattanooga, as we talked about earlier, with his family of vitalistic chiropractors. Here they use a light touch approach to work with the body's nervous system to process stress, challenge, and trauma stored within the body, limiting our human potential to thrive. What does that mean, limiting our human potential to thrive?
So for me personally, I think everybody has the potential to thrive and live whatever their most authentic, optimal life is. And it can't really, categorize it like everyone has to do these certain things. Everyone's going to have their own thing that they resonate with. But anytime we're not living that authentic life, anytime we're not thriving from within, anytime we don't feel that sense of connection and greater purpose in our life, that's us not living up to our potential. And that's us not thriving. And generally, people will associate that with feeling the aches and the pains, or feeling a sense of limitation within themselves, or maybe they have an XYZ illness, disease, or condition. But ultimately, from the inside out, it's just our body isn't functioning the way that it should, and our life is going to reflect that.
Yeah, so I feel like recently that's been really coming a lot about in local pop culture, and just it's been popular in general recently, what with the green movements and people getting more in touch with either their spiritual side or just their physical being. Do you think that's kind of affected y'all's business at all, or have you seen an uptick in people being willing to talk to you rather than like 10 years ago?
Yeah, I definitely think, I can't speak for 10 years ago. I can speak for 5 years ago when we first started up. And to be blatantly honest, like a lot of people thought it was voodoo. I thought it was like kind of quackery what we do a little bit. I think more so now, maybe there are still people who think that, but more so now, more people resonate with what we do and the things that we talk about. And I think it's not out of the question for people to ask the question of like, why can't I create health from within? Why can't I, given all the tools that I have and given this body that I have and all these resources, why can't I create the health and the life that I want to have from within naturally and explore that a little bit more?
Yeah, that's awesome. Let's dig into you a little bit. Why are you an entrepreneur? Why did you start your own thing?
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like I ask myself that question multiple times a week, like, why am I doing this?
Usually after a hard day.
Yeah, right. Like,
sounds like a lot of entrepreneurs we know.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. I think for me, the biggest thing is, being an entrepreneur and even my whole journey has just been about exploring more potential for people, more potential for myself. I would say like being an entrepreneur allows you the freedom, but I think I've had times where I've worked 80 hours a week. Started at 8 a.m. and finished at 11 o'clock at night. And I think that just kind of comes with it. But I think for me, being an entrepreneur provides you with opportunities to, for me, to impact and affect a lot of people and create a difference in the world. But then also opportunities for me personally, opportunities for me to kind of pivot and make decisions that I want to make and how I want to take my business and how I want my days to look, how I want my work-life balance to be, and allows me opportunities to spend more time with my family, go travel, do different things like that. So I think for me, it's just about having those luxuries and those things that don't necessarily come with a 9-to-5 job. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's still people who live a really amazing, authentic life doing that. But I think for me to fully express that, it's, following that entrepreneur path and really creating from within. And I'm big in personal development, self-growth. And one thing I've really learned from this journey is you can't separate growing your business and growing yourself. You have to do both simultaneously, and you can use either one to be kind of a mirror for the other. And I think that's just something that's just an added bonus from doing this.
Yeah. Tell us about a recent victory you had, speaking of tying in together your business and your personal life.
Yeah. Being a service-based business, there was a little thing called COVID that happened. And so when you're in a business where it's all about physical touch and there's a pandemic where people don't want to be touched, it was kind of a struggle. There's no book or manual that's going to help you navigate that time. I don't think anybody
knew. Not yet, at least.
Yeah, not yet. I don't think anybody knew exactly what to do and how to approach that. And really, we just had to figure it out. We were still in the growing phase where we still wanted to get more people in our office. We were still trying to get people to learn more about us. We actually just moved our practice from Ottawa to just behind Nutrition World at Lee Highway 153 in Chattanooga. And so we're still exploring all that. And then this pandemic happens. We don't know what's going to happen. And during that time, our business really took off. And I think more so for me personally, had a recognition that people really need this service out there. Not in sense of, working with COVID or anything, but like there was so much stress and anxiety that came with that. People didn't know what was going to happen to their health. They didn't know what was going to happen to their job, to their finances. Like everything was up in the air essentially. And so just to be able to come to a place where they could have a little bit of peace, a little bit of quiet, experience some calmness, let them know everything was going to be okay and that we were going to work through this and move through this together, really forced me to kind of be that person that people needed in the area to get through that. And so the fact that we made it through that unscathed was a huge win for me.
Do you find that COVID has changed a lot of people's priorities and maybe how they view the world and perhaps what they used to not think was super important, and now maybe they're like, oh, this is, I took it for granted before and now I'm never going to do that again?
Definitely, yeah. Definitely opened up your perspective. I think just that there are, like you said, some things that are just more important in life, and what's most important to us, what's most important to our families. When we focus on that, we shift our focus on that, and we stop focusing on all the other things, and that's us living our authentic life, and that's us, connecting to that higher power within us and that intelligence within us. And I want more people to focus on what's important to them and what really gets them going in the day, what gets them going, or what gets them up in the morning, and what's something that they can give back to the world. And the more and more people that are doing that day in and day out, that's how we create that ripple effect throughout communities and cities and states and create a global change as well. So, obviously it's there was a lot of navigating during that time, but I think some people took that as an opportunity to really sharpen that focus and like figure out what was important for them. And I think that's a huge win.
Yeah, I think this whole great resignation thing with, this exodus of people quitting their jobs and doing something that they never would have 3 years ago, I think it's going to be a really interesting journey to see on the other end and find that a lot of people that never would have tried art for the first time and loved it. And a lot of people that never would have tried art and were really bad at it. And they're like, okay, well, I tried it. I got to try it, and I know now that's not my thing.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a really cool renaissance of sorts, which, it's unfortunate that it had to ride on the back of a global pandemic.
Totally.
But always look for silver linings. I think this concept of like everyone has the potential to thrive, I think it'll be a lot more common in the next 5 to 10 years than it was 5 to 10 years ago, because people are giving themselves the chance, because they say, what do I have to lose? I might die tomorrow, so might as well just go for it. Which is kind of stark and kind of dark, but it's also a little freeing to know that, at one point, if I, quit my job to try some creative hobby, my professional friends would have mocked me or looked down on me, or family or whatever. But now it's like, everyone's doing it. I don't really have anything to lose, because there's no risk, because other people are trying. And if I fail, then, oh, well, I'm just one of the people that also failed. And if I succeed, then cool, I get to do what I love.
Yeah. Taking those opportunities, taking those chances, and being okay with failure. Yeah. That's part of the process, especially being an entrepreneur. Like I've failed way more than I've succeeded. And there's so many things that, looking back, you would think like, oh, I wish I did that differently. But, I learned from that, and I grew from that, and it made me the business owner and the person that I am today. So it's all for me. It's all for us, everything.
Do you find that these failures have made you into someone that you never could have conceived of that you could become? Or do you find that it's completely changed your trajectory into some unknown microcosm of future Bryan?
I think maybe a little bit of both, but in a sense, I would say more so it made me who I am. It's I think like people ask, what would you do differently if you could start over again? And I don't think I would do anything differently. I mean, maybe there are certain things I would do differently. We've got a lot of business debt, but the certain things that you would do, but like the challenges, the things that came up along the way, like I wouldn't change that. I wouldn't have picked a different spot or picked a different time or any of that stuff, because all those things were again, they were there for me. They made me who I am, and I'm still going through struggles and challenges. I think we all go through those as business owners every single day, every single week, and those challenges are going to propel us into a new version of us a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and someday we'll all together we'll be having this podcast on some island that where we're sipping be-caffeinated, and because we
I was thinking more like margaritas or pina coladas, but that works.
I didn't know what type of podcast this was, so it's just about accepting those challenges and those struggles in the moment, being grateful as much as you can, and just keeping your head up and keep moving forward, and that creates that resiliency that you need.
So 100%, because like ultimately you can only make the best decision from where you are in that moment. Like you're taking your best knowledge and experience, and later on you can look back and say, oh, that easy to say I could have done this. But ultimately so much of what you said, probably for the past like 5 minutes, I was like, is this guy like staring into my journal, like authentic, follow your purpose?
Well, you left it open on the table.
I guess I did. So yeah, I just want to say I really kind of resonate with that. And I was also just one of those people that was like, I'm totally changing my path in life. I'm quitting my job and doing this stuff. And so anyways, I'm a big fan.
Which that's totally cool. Like, if there's, again, like you don't know until you know.
Exactly.
You got to experience different things and be like, I don't like this, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to continue doing something for the next 30 years because that's what we're told to do, or something. That you're more than welcome to change courses and everything, but as long as you're doing it from that place of like you're grounded and you're centered, and it's not like this emotional decision, and you're letting outside factors influence you. So it's, if you're coming from that authentic place and you decide, I want to pivot, I want to completely transform my career and my life, you have the freedom and the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because I definitely have done the frantic desperation version of that before and then regretted it. Yeah. But whereas, like you said, like the grounded place, like doing it from like really knowing that it's right for you and you're intentionally making this choice, like that is a much better feeling.
Yeah. A business mentor of mine told me, I think of this pretty much every day. He says, wherever you go, there you are within yourself. So you can change everything around you and might be good for a little while, but eventually that same stuff is going to come up. And unless you handle it in the moment, you're present, you're grounded, you're connected, you know, you can only temporarily change that until it's time to address that again, because it's always going to be there.
Yep.
So.
That's awesome. So let's dig a little bit more into how you got where you are today. So what's kind of your past experience, maybe your degrees, and like, why did you go after them? Why did you do that? And then how did it kind of lead to Rev?
Yeah. So I went to, I guess backtracking all the way, I've always been interested in health, human performance, athletics. I played a lot of sports growing up. I was always interested in like how athletes can do these amazing things with their bodies. And so I went on to study exercise physiology, exercise science in undergrad. I worked as an exercise physiologist at a hospital. That was kind of my first step into the healthcare field. And I worked in the cardiology department, and basically what I did was like physical therapy for your heart after a surgery of some sort. And for the people who went through that program after a surgery, it was life-changing. It got them through the recovery phase. It got them on to the next phases of life. For people who weren't able to go through that, it was kind of a stark contrast. And that was a really tough pill to swallow for me, to see these people not get the help and the support they need. Maybe we'd get a letter or something into our office saying like, Mrs. So-and-so passed away. And it was just something that I didn't want to be a part of. And it wasn't so much that I was like, I can't do this and letting my emotions dictate me. It was like, there's got to be something more to help these people, and not that their insurance only pays for 5 visits, And so from there, I kind of transitioned and moved into personal training as I was rethinking my life a little bit. And, worked with a lot of people who wanted to get healthier. They wanted to get in shape. They wanted to lose weight. They wanted to get stronger, whatever. But then I also worked with a lot of CEOs of businesses who were like, they were in great shape and they worked out every single day, and they just wanted it to be the best version of themselves. Like they needed to do this so that they could show up every day and run their business the way that they needed to. And that was really interesting to me. And so I really looked into like human performance and outside of health, and just like how we could create all these things in our life. And I started learning more about how the body works and understanding this, and started looking into more professions and like, what I want to do. Do I want to be a coach? Do I want to stay as a personal trainer? And I ended up finding chiropractic, which most people scratch their head like, how did chiropractic come up in that whole search? And it was like, once you learn that your nervous system is how you coordinate and control every cell within your body. There's 100 trillion cells that make up your body. They're all going through chemical reactions, billions of them every single second, and your nervous system is what's coordinating that. It's like the master control system, the operating system for your entire body. It's also how you take in and sense your environment, all your experiences in it. So if your nervous system is processing that information, you essentially can have the health, the well-being that you want. Your actions, your behaviors, your emotions, your thoughts are all dictated through that. And that's going to lead to essentially your health, but also your wealth, your level of abundance, your relationships, your career, how you give back to the world, and everything that you put out into the world is going to filter in through your body's nervous system. And your nervous system is housed in your spine. And so the better your spine is functioning, the better your body is functioning. You're going to function better from the inside out. And so I went through chiropractic school. I worked in Atlanta after graduating at more of a sports chiropractic office. So it was really focused on athletes and structure and alignment. And it was great. It helped a lot of people tremendously. I really loved that experience. Help people get back onto the golf course, help people, turn their neck while they're driving through Atlanta traffic, which I'm not knocking it. That's totally important. People need that. But again, there was this like calling within that I was like, there's got to be something more that I can help people with. There's this, there's something missing to me. And I knew of this different approach. I knew that it was very different than what most people think of chiropractic care. And I remember telling my then I think she was actually my girlfriend at the time, but now she's my wife. I was saying like, I'm ready to start my own thing. I'm ready to start doing this and helping people in the way that I think that can best support them. And so I left that job, a very secure job. We moved to Chattanooga, Ottawa specifically, opened up our first office out there, went through some struggles, went through some different beginning phases. Like we started inside of a yoga studio where like I was going in, I was setting up 3-4 of my chiropractic tables in the yoga room. I would work with a couple people. I would tear my tables down. There'd be a yoga class. I'd set my tables back up. I'd work with people after. I would do that 2-3 times a day, just to start out, because that's just all we had.
We call that the minimum viable product.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, like the Rocky montage, like I just see flashbacks of like so many table setups and
there was so many, and it was definitely a humbling experience. But I was like, for the first time, I was like, this is what it is. This is what I'm doing. I don't feel this call to do something different. It's a lot of work for sure, and it's different. It's I'm learning not only how to set up a business, but I'm learning this whole new approach to health and healing that I'm navigating through, and I'm working with people on. And so there's just a lot of twists and turns, ups and downs, and eventually we moved into a permanent space. And then in 2019, we decided that, hey, there's this other office that happens to be run and owned by my family, my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law. They own this office called Rev on the North Shore. And we decided, like, hey, what if we just combined everything? We do the same approach. We learn from the same people. We have the same mission. We have the same vision. We have the same message we want to share. We can make such a huge impact if we just made one business. And so we decided, you know what, let's take this on. Let's create one name. Let's create work under one umbrella here, and really see how big we can make this. And then from there, things happened.
So I'm just curious, was that like an easy conversation? Like everyone was like, yeah, let's go right away? Or was that like it's just so interesting to me that happened?
It actually was. It was actually just like, this just felt right. I mean, maybe a year or so prior, my brother-in-law came to me. I remember him talking to me, and he was like, hey, what if we did this? This was long ago. And, what if we created one together? And I was thinking, my ego was like, nah, I want to do my own. I want to make my own thing. And then after a while, I was like, it's not about me. It's about all these people. And I see all the people that their office helps, and I see all the people that our office got to help. And I just started thinking about all the more people that we could help in Chattanooga. And when I finally came to that realization, we had that conversation a second time, it was just like, yeah, let's do it. Like there was no hesitation, like how quickly can we do this? Like I think I just make a couple changes. I call the Department of Revenue. I let them know this is what's happening, and we can go. And so we pretty much picked up and did that as quickly as we could. And we've been on the North Shore now, me and my wife personally, we've been in this office for about 7 months, and just navigating all that stuff, becoming more cohesive within the other practitioners that are there. There's 4 other chiropractors who practice regularly there, and so we're just trying to figure out the scheduling and what we can do to best hone in our mission, our vision and our message to get it out to the rest of the people in the community, and see how far we can take this. So it's an exciting time for us.
So what inspired the name and the brand Rev?
So Rev is short for basically revive, revitalize, rev up your health and your life. And ironically, when we all went to school, there was a coffee shop there called Rev. Nice. And I think that had a little bit of a role playing in that as well. It was just kind of top of mind there. But the next important piece is the Center for Optimal Living, which is kind of the backbone of what it is that we do. Rev is the brand. Rev is what we put out there. But Center for Optimal Living is what we're all about. And I think all of us in our office can relate to. We've met with people, maybe we've had experiences where you can have optimal health on paper. Your lab values, your vitals are within normal ranges, and you're quote unquote, you're healthy. But people aren't, again, thriving from within. It's about what we can do with our health, how we can sync that physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, how we can create that mind-body connection so that we can be in touch with that calling within us, that calling us to do the things that we want to do and live that authentic life. And so for us, it's all about, yes, we can help you create your health. We can guide you in that right direction. But what do you want to do with that? How do you want to live your life now that you have your health back? Because if you don't have your health, you can't live your most optimal life, in our opinion. And so how can we help support people to, outside of our four walls, go out into the community, into the world, and be their best self?
Very holistic.
Yeah, I would say so.
All right. To end my first section, what makes you keep going? Like, why do you wake up in the morning?
Yeah, when I was thinking of this, it sounds so cliche because I've heard people say this before, like when you have the birth of a child, all of a sudden it's like, it's not about you. And when my daughter was born 10 months ago, it was like, yeah, it's not about me. Like instantly I felt that. And so, I want her to have the best life possible. I want her to have the best childhood. And I know and respect that there's going to be things that happen in her life that is, for her and helping her to grow and evolve. But I want to give her the best chance to have the life that she wants to have. And so I want to create that for her. And by doing what we're doing, obviously it provides my family with an income and it provides us with, the resources for her to do that. But ultimately I want to help make the world a better place for her. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, what's the world going to look like for her? And how I can best impact people and impact the world is by helping people to live authentically from the inside out with what we do. And so, so many days where it's like, oh man, I wish I could just keep sleeping, and I wish I could, not do this one thing. But I think of that, and it's just like, I have to get to do this, but I want to do this. And I want that for her. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me that you mentioned that, because like at Be Caffeinated, one of the things that we always say is one of our mottos is leave it better than you found it. I feel like that's a big thing that like has like recently happened with entrepreneurs, is that they're not just like wanting to make businesses now just to have a business like before. It really is about like leaving the world a better place than how it was when they found it. Yeah. And I feel like you really just made a business that's for them to help them sort themselves out and be able to be a better person.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole focus and the goal for sure. And I think one of the struggles has been like finding there's a line of like, you want to help people, you want to give, you want to serve people, you have a service that can help them overcome things that are holding them back, that are limiting them in different ways. I would love to say like, I can do this for free, but at the same time, like you have to pay the bills. If you can't, pay your rent, then you don't have a space to provide the service for people. And so I think in the beginning there was like I had a hard time balancing that line of like, I'm just going to focus on everybody. I'm going to make sure they're happy and make sure that they're getting what they need. And I was doing that. It was great. And I had like 5 people. So it's like, unless those 5 people are paying like $1,000 each, it's going to be really hard to pay all your expenses. And so I've gone through times where it's like, I've got to get more people in. And so I focused my attention on that and like, how can I get more people in? And, I get a lot of people in, but then there'd be a lot of people that fell off or left off. And so it's understanding that there's a line and that there's a balance, and like you've got to be able to maybe 1 minute turn on that health healing practitioner mentality and then switch over to, I've got to pay for my taxes. I got to do these different things for my business. I've got to make sure that I'm moving in the right direction, that people are seeing me online and on social media, and that people can find us if they need us. And so that for me was kind of like a big hurdle to overcome in the very, very beginning.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think almost all like every business I've been involved with has had like the same like kind of struggle of that, finding that balance. And it sounds like you've done a great job of finding that balance. And speaking of that, speaking of like that kind of like intersection, it's neat that like your business, I've never heard like a chiropractor like describe like going beyond the physical, like the way that you have, and it not just being about physical health, but like the mental health aspect too. That's so unique. Would you say like that's like a big element of why you've been so successful compared to others?
I definitely think it's like it plays a role, because I think we were talking a minute ago, like people now that the world has been the way that it is over the last 5, 10, 15 years. I think more and more people are trending in that direction of like, how can I'm more than just this physical body. There's more to me than just, my shoulder, my knee, my low back, my neck. And like, how can I intertwine all of that together? How can I make that one cohesive unit and if I do that, what does that look like for my life? How does that impact my health, my well-being, my job, my family, my relationships? And so I think a lot of people are exploring that more, and it's definitely been something we've leveraged in the past, and really focusing on that. And you got to meet people where they are. Sometimes people come in like, hey, I have back pain, and I'm not really interested in all the other stuff, just like helping with my back pain. And that's great. We can help you for sure. And when you're ready, we're here to have this conversation of what's possible for you. But when you're ready.
So looking beyond Rev, what would you say has like made you as an entrepreneur succeed with this?
I think the biggest thing is understanding, waking up every day that I don't have to do this. There's so many times where like, I have to go to work, or I have to go to, the store, or I have to spend time with my family, or not that you would say that, but you know what I'm saying. And I think for me, it's been like this opportunity of like, wow, I get to do this. I get to go to the office every day, and I get to work with these people and interact with them and do something that's going to, really impact them for the rest of their lives. And there's a quote by the developer of chiropractic. His name was BJ Palmer. He said, "You never know how far-reaching something you say, do, or think may impact the lives of millions of people tomorrow." And so for me, that's always kind of resonated, like, wow, just me seeing them and interacting with them coming into our office, laying on the table for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, and getting to interact with their system and help them work through different things in their life. Like, I have no idea how that's going to impact them years from now. I may never know, and they may never know what the impact that has for them. And so that just kind of keeps me going. And really, when the days get tough, I just rely on that and think about that.
I love that. It's a true passion project. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
So speaking of, we just said like impact and like what like keeps your customers coming back. Have you like gotten any like interesting like feedback or anything from them on like what they appreciate about Rev?
I think the biggest thing, and if you talk to our people, you look at our reviews online, the biggest thing that pops up over and over is that we genuinely care for everyone in our office. And I know that might be cliche to say, like, of course, all healthcare practitioners, all doctors, they care about the people that come in their office. But I think for us, what we've created at Rev is it's like a palpable environment. Whether you've been coming to our office for a week, 6 months, a year, or you just like popped in and we're like, hey, what's this place? And you were there for 10 minutes. It's something that you can pick up and you can see, like, we genuinely care about every single person in our office. So most people, I think, even become our friends over time, or even borderline family, just because of how close we get to them and how we really want the best for them. And that's all it really comes down to, is we want the best for everyone in our office, and they may have pain or they may have anxiety, but we're going to see them as the person and the version of themselves that they want to be. And I think that just goes a long, long way for people, because either A, they're not getting that from themselves, or B, they're not getting that at home. They're not having that person that can hold that space for them. And so that's something that we really, really, really try to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That reminds me a whole lot of, so I used to be a guitar and voice teacher, and it's like some days you just teach guitar and some days you're just teaching people how to sing. But like those relationships built over time, it's just crazy like how impactful that can be. And so that's super cool. It very much resonated with that.
You gotta help me with the G C chord.
Yeah, you got it,
like
man.
G to D. Gosh, I'm struggling.
It's hard at the beginning.
It is. Yeah.
Your hand's not used to making those shapes. No. But yeah, it's crazy how much of an impact that can make. And yeah, so the ripple effect, I really, really loved how you talked about that. So to go in a different angle, I think it's really interesting, like you said earlier, about how like entrepreneurship is like this crazy mirror for who you are. It's like it's really hard to go into entrepreneurship and not have you learn about who you are and like come up against where you're strong and also where you're weak. And like I know for me that's been the case. So I want to kind of jump into the dark side.
Yeah.
So what is your kryptonite? So this could be like a true weakness, or it could just be like something that drains you. Like, however you want to interpret that, what would you say your kryptonite is?
I would say my kryptonite, I guess, would be just negative energy, whether it's negative people, negative news, negative circumstances. And that's not to downplay anything that's happening or to like, not say that it's an important stuff that's going on, but I look back in my business and I look at times where things were going really well. We had a lot of people coming in and, revenue was good and all that stuff. And it was like, I was focusing on what's important. I was having fun. I was focusing on my people, and things were just happening. Things were just, coming to me. I was kind of like in this flow. And then there are times where it's like I shifted my focus onto something else, whether it was something negative in the world, or something negative going on in my life personally, or just something that I thought was negative. And it's like, as soon as you switch your focus off of what's important, it just totally drains me. And I noticed that there would be times where it would take me like weeks to recover from some of that stuff, and like finally get back into that place and really create some momentum moving in the other direction. Because even if it's like subtle, I'm just focusing on this, it's like I'm moving in that opposite direction. I'm moving away from my vision, and I'm moving away from what I want. And it takes kind of a while to shift everything back onto that. It doesn't just happen instantly. And so I've definitely have been riding the waves, especially over the last few years, of just getting caught up in things that don't really, I don't want to say matter, but just don't impact me the way that I give it the credit for.
Yeah. So I want to dig in a little bit, go a little deeper on, you said those periods of times where you're kind of like stuck, and then the periods of times where you're able to actually kind of shift and get out of it, because a lot of other entrepreneurs and business leaders listen to this podcast. So I'm just super curious, like on a more granular level, what the being stuck part looked like for you. And then what are some of the things you have found that have helped you get out of that stuck part?
Yeah, the being stuck part for me was pretty simple. It wasn't taking action. It was, allowing that outside influence to create almost like a fear within me. And when you're in a place of fear, it's like the last thing you want to do is take action. Like, you just want to stay in one place where you feel like you're safe and you feel like, this is where you've got to be. And that's the last place you want to be, especially in business, especially when you're stuck. You've got to continuously move forward. You've got to continuously put one foot in front of the other and really be comfortable with like the uncomfortable and what that's going to bring. And so for me, it's all about connecting back to get out of that, connecting back to myself. And I like to spend a lot of time in nature. Nature just kind of like recharges me a little bit. It takes my mind off of things. It allows me to process whatever's been going on and say like, okay, this happened. Here are the steps I can take to move forward. And then from there, it's just about taking those action steps. You can't avoid them. I don't think there's a business owner on the planet who hasn't had like struggles and hardships and times where they're like, I just can't do this. I better go fix up my resume or go work at McDonald's or something. Like it's going to come, and you just have to be able to navigate through that and find practices that are going to help you connect back to yourself and disconnect from all the stuff that's influencing you externally or internally, whatever it may be.
It's awesome. And I, even just like filtering that through, I'm like, what are my hardest times? What does that look like? And it was really interesting. It's a similar pattern. Like, you literally removed yourself from where things are negative. You went to a place that's positive for you, out in the woods. And then you came to acceptance with where you were. You came up with ideas of what you could do.
Yeah.
And you chose something and did it. It's like so simple when you look at it, but it's so hard in the moments of hard times to actually like realize that that's the step forward. So I think that's really great that you like laid that out for everyone.
Yeah.
And to quote one of Michael and I's favorite book series, the most important step is always the next one. And
it's from Frozen 2, right?
Yeah. Just let it go, okay? No, it's from the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. And he also says that journey before destination. So it's super cheesy, but as a business owner, like, there's always going to be sucky stuff, and you just have to keep going and push through that next step. Because if you can get there, then you can get to the next one. If you can get to the next one, you can also get to the one after that.
It's almost like you learn to love those things. You learn to love like the challenges because you're like, oh man, this is gonna. How is this gonna help me? How's this gonna get me to that next step and get me to the next level? Like if you think of it as a video game, like yeah, this is really hard, but I can't wait to overcome this and get to the next piece. Where, as I think in the beginning for me, it was like when I came up against those challenges, I was like, oh, how can I run away, and what's something I can use to cover that up, and so I don't have to focus on that. But now it's like embracing the challenge, embracing the struggle, and just moving forward.
Well, the most interesting characters in movies, books, TV shows are always the battle-hardened, grizzled war veterans, and never the green rookies. You know, no one cares about the rookies except to see their journey to become the battle-hardened, grizzled people. But I mean, you can just say, all right, what is this scar? How, like when I'm on the other side, what is it going to remind me of, and how am I going to be able to do better next time? And you know, use the counter on the guy and then kill him instead of him. Scar me. Not to get too violent.
And then come chill out after you've gone through all that stress and go to Rev.
Recover from your fights.
That's really awesome. So now I'm curious. So fear was this huge kryptonite. Well, it was the negativity that would lead to that fear and that interaction. So now that you've kind of adopted more of that mindset of a similar mindset, I love one of my favorite books is called The Obstacle is the Way. And it's just like that. Even just in the title, you get it. It's like just like you were saying, it's an opportunity, not an obstacle. But now where you're at, like with some of the stuff you're struggling with now, where would you say is the area you think you can most improve?
I mean, I always think, for me, it always comes back to like mindset. You know, I've always been good at just like performing, you know, playing sports and stuff like that. Like if I was backed up into a corner, or if I needed to make something happen, like I could make it happen out on the field. You know, that's just kind of like was my go-to. I could rely on my physical abilities. But for me, it was always that mindset of like, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to perform? What if this happens? And it's almost like and from what I know, what I've learned is that your nervous system doesn't know the difference between if something is actually happening to you or if something is totally made up in your mind. It doesn't know if it's going to happen in 20 seconds or if it happened 20 years ago. It just knows the feelings and the sensations. And so the more you spend time in this negative mindset of thinking of the what ifs, the worst case scenarios, or just, being down on yourself and your abilities, your nervous system is like, oh, this must be happening right now. And you create that internal change within you. And then again, that impacts your actions and your behaviors and your habits. And then all of a sudden your reality is exactly what you feared. And you're like, well, see, this is what it means. But really what happened is you just created that internal state that led to set the dominoes in motion that led to that external situation. And so for me, mindset is just always a work in progress. Mm-hmm. And I finally feel like I've gotten to a point where it's like, it's not a struggle anymore as it was. Like I've overcome several hurdles with that, but it's still, something that's always there. That's something that's always a little bit of tweaking, always a little bit of this. And it's not so much like positive mindset, which is great, but you have to be able to like take in the positive and the negative, decipher between the two, learn from both, and then move forward as well. And so it's like handling that positive or handling the negative that comes with the positive. And so for me, that's just always been where I fall back to. And there's just different practices that I implement and that I try to do on a daily basis that keeps me able to stay present, keeps me able to decipher between the two, and then just continuously move forward.
I love that. So real quick, I'm going to ask one more little question and then I'll hand it back over to Nate. So it sounds like a similar thing, like solution that you go to, like even when you talked about the previous stuff of like focusing on negativity or the fear. So even when it comes to the mindset, it's like always going back to what can bring you back to like feeling connected to yourself and positive. And so you mentioned that you do some different practice. What are a few of the things that you just kind of do on your daily basis that could be cool tools that our listeners can take away?
Yeah. I try to every day just meditate in the morning. And, some people have a hard time with meditation or the word meditation. But really it's just a matter of like, working out for your mind, calming your mind and being able to come back to just the present moment and stillness. And, your mind is going to wander. If you sit in silence for 15 minutes, your mind is going to wander. I guarantee it. And it's a matter of like, okay, I wandered off on this thought. Let me just bring it back to focusing on my breathing, focusing on my feet, focusing on where I'm sitting in the chair or whatever it is. And so that's something that for me, I just constantly have to do. And it's about how you can take that with you throughout your day. So it's not just that 15 minutes in the morning or at lunch that you do this, but it's a matter of like, okay, am I able to come back into my body? For the last 3 hours, I've been worried about this and this has been coming up. How can I bring myself back into my body? And so meditation has just been a way that I can just do that and bring myself back. Exercising is huge for me. I just feel like it just sets the tone for me. It sets the tone for me physically. It sets the tone for me mentally and emotionally, to just show up as my best self. And I love to kind of push myself in the gym or out on the trail or something, just to see like what I'm capable of and remind me like I'm able to handle this. I'm able to work through this. I'm able to continue moving forward. And then I think lastly, and this is something that more so recently I've gotten into than I would like to admit in the beginning, but just having fun and just remembering like, again, you get to do this every day. You don't have to do this. There are things that being a business owner, an entrepreneur, that you've got to do every day. Like we all have those things, but you can choose to have fun while you do that. And it doesn't have to be this like mundane, like awful thing all the time that you've got to do. And then you got to go home with it. And then you got to worry about it on the weekends. Like you can have fun and you can decompress and you can let yourself live a little bit, even though you're an entrepreneur and you want to grow a successful business and you've heard that you've got to work all these insane hours for the next 20, 30 years to get to that point. Like you can still have fun along the way and still do that and achieve that.
Love that. It's great.
Cool.
So speaking of what you just said about like having fun while you work up to those next goals, what are those next goals for you?
So our vision at Rev is we want Rev to become a household name. And when people think of up-leveling their health, up-leveling their life, overcoming limitations, whether they're physical, mental, emotional, or whatever they are, we want them to think of Rev and almost get to the point where it's like, yeah, why aren't you going to Rev yet? You might start seeing t-shirts all around town here. You might start seeing billboards soon and like different things on social media because we were working on these things on the background. But that's kind of our mission and our vision. And it's not from like a monetary standpoint, although that's nice to make more money for your business. But it's one of those things again where I feel like all of the chiropractors, all of the practitioners in our office, they have this mentality that this is what people need, and we're all coming from that place. Everyone can benefit from what we do. Everyone deserves to live the life that they want to live, however that may look. And we just want to be there as that service, as that business here in Chattanooga, for people to experience that and for people to fulfill that.
Sounds like y'all are leading with your why instead of your what or your how. Like we talked about with the Simon Sinek.
Yeah. You guys helped me tremendously really focus that in. And I think just sharing that with the other docs there, that's definitely like been our transition and been our focus is like, okay, why are we doing this? Why do we want to do this? What do we see for the future, not only for ourselves, but for everybody who walks through our doors? What do we see for them and what do we want them to experience? And what do we want Chattanooga to be? How do we want Chattanooga to flourish during this time? And so that's been definitely a driving factor for us.
I love hearing those questions. Love vision. So awesome, man. So great. Well, that makes me super excited because like that's one of those key things, Simon Sinek talks about that a lot, about just like being a leader is not just managing stuff. It's like really painting a picture for where things could go that is hopeful and exciting and beautiful. And like, so that's really awesome that you've been able to take that and like bring that to the team. And I'm so excited to see what happens from that. It's very cool. That's
something we take people through on our process too. It's like, you can figure out this is where you are and this is where you were and this is where you are now. And like, oh, that's cool. That's great. But then can you paint a picture for this is where we're going? And that's what I think really paints that picture for what's possible for people and gets people coming back, whether you're a chiropractor or working in a healthcare field or you're selling coffee, whatever it is. Like if you can paint that picture for people of like, this is what we're going towards, this is why you should continue coming to us. That's what creates that sustainable business, and those people keep coming back for you.
When you look at like Martin Luther King, and it wasn't the like I have a plan speech, it was the I have a dream speech,
right.
and he led with like it wasn't if we do this we can win. It was this is the future that we can have.
Yeah.
Oh, and then here's how we can do it.
Yeah,
which
right.
I think is really big.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Yeah, I can't wait for the day that I hear people going, I'm going to the Rev. Just everywhere that I am. That's great. Well, so where can people find you right now?
Our Rev page is, we're on Instagram. We're doing a lot of stuff there, putting out some good content. That's at Rev Optimal Living. I'm on social media too as well. Instagram, at Dr. Bryan Stotz on Instagram. And then you can go to our website as well. So www.revoptimalliving.com. We're also located on the North Shore, right on Fraser Avenue. So you're always welcome to come on in, stop by, say hey. We've got a lot of information. We've got a lot of different things that we can give to you. And just, anytime somebody comes in and they just want to learn a little bit more, there's always going to be somebody there who's going to be willing to sit down and talk with you, whatever's going on in your life and how we can support you if that's something that's interesting to you.
And before we switch over to Chris and he does his rapid fire round, what's just something that you want people to leave knowing about Rev?
That's a great question. I want people to know that at Rev, we genuinely, truly care about you. And again, I know I mentioned that before, and it kind of sounds cliche, but I mean that's really what it is. It's not so much like, oh yeah, we do this different approach. It's really light touch. It's or we have this cool office, or at the end, it's like, man, we want the best for everybody who comes through our doors. We want you to succeed. We want you to live vibrantly. We want you to live authentically from within, not only just for you, but for the world. Like we want more and more people to do that and experience that. And so, anytime somebody comes by or sees our office, I want them to think that, like, even if they never come in and they just hear this message, like, you have the potential to thrive. You have the potential to live optimally, and that's always available to you, and that's always going to be something that's right there for you to take with you. And if you need support with that, we are more than happy to help you with that and set it up and show you how that's possible for you. It's just a matter of taking that step.
This episode of Startup Heroes was brought to you by Be Caffeinated Coffee. Cafe quality, drive-through convenience, serving lattes, drip, cold brew, and more with all locally roasted coffee. Check them out at their locations in Red Bank, North Shore, Chat State, and East 3rd Street across from the zoo. And remember, be happy, be caffeinated. All right, time for the rapid fire round. Are you ready, Brian?
I'm ready.
All right, you have less than a minute to answer all of these questions.
Wow.
All right, no more than that.
All right.
They're not super complicated.
Okay.
You can get a little in-depth, but no more than a minute.
Okay.
All right, what's your favorite book? And we're going to do business and non-business.
Okay. Non-business, I love The Alchemist. Business, I would say I've actually started reading Start With Why, and I think it's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm a Simon Sinek fanboy through and through. Who's your favorite author?
Favorite author would be, I guess Simon Sinek. The book so far is great.
Nice.
So,
well, he has a lot of them, so you can read a bunch.
Yeah.
What TV show are you binging right now?
Oh, I've been watching Stranger Things, but only when my wife is not in the room. So it's taken me forever. So no spoilers. I haven't finished.
Oh, yeah. I'm on season 3, so no worries.
Okay, yeah. It's great.
Does she just not like it, or is it?
It's a little too scary for her, and it's almost borderline too scary for me. So
yeah,
I don't know why I watch it, to be honest.
Who was your biggest influence growing up?
I would say it'd have to be my parents. They they really taught me. My dad especially taught me, like, if anything's worth doing, it's worth doing right the first time. And just seeing, like, the way that they navigated different things in their life. They're about to celebrate 50 years of marriage, and running businesses and stuff like that, and just the way that they handled everything was inspiring.
That's awesome. What businesses do they do? or did they?
My dad's in IT. My mom works kind of like behind the scenes at a like an awning store, local awning store in back home in Michigan where I'm from, and they're looking to grow and expand. They're doing some really cool stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's your favorite restaurant around town?
You know, I'm not vegan, but I love Southern Squeeze and Real Roots. They're two like vegan only shops. They have like shakes and juices and stuff. The food is great, but more so like the people there are just awesome.
Yeah.
Like every time you go in, you feel like family, and you just can like connect with them on different ways. So love both of those.
What's your
places.
Southern Squeeze juice go-to?
Juice? I love the one, oh gosh, I don't even know they're gonna get on me for this, but it's like it's got beets and carrots and ginger. It's kind of spicy, but a little bit, but it's really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's your go-to coffee drink?
Go to coffee. I would just say just black coffee.
Yeah.
I mean, like go to, you think of like anywhere you go, you're gonna get the same thing, maybe potentially, but it's like.
Do you have an origin that you prefer?
Origin? No.
Like a country or flavor profile, or just black coffee and you're good?
You guys are gonna have to teach me the origins and like what's
All right.
good.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite superhero or supervillain?
Growing up, I loved Batman just for like all of his gadgets, but I think I relate more to Captain America. Just
Why is
like
that?
I feel like, you know, he went through the chamber and he became like this super soldier or whatever. But I feel like he already had that within him. You know, it was just like something else outside of him just kind of sparked that within. And I feel like I can relate to that a lot.
So you're saying that he had the potential to thrive, and then the chamber allowed him to fully reach that.
Yeah, exactly.
No wonder you like him. That's right on brand.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Star Wars, Harry Potter, or Lord of the Rings?
My wife and I, we just watched all the Harry Potter for the first time. Loved it, but I don't think anything compares to Star Wars.
Nice.
Star Wars.
What trilogy is your favorite?
What trilogy? Yeah, I'm more like the newer ones. The old ones, I respect them. I like them a little bit, but you can't get over like the graphics and everything that they do in the newer ones for sure.
Like the 7, 8, 9 new ones, or like the prequels?
7, 8, 9. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Heard. Who is your favorite band?
I really like The Head and the Heart.
What kind of music is that?
I don't know. it's just a lot of guitar.
It's like folky, but like very thoughtful and like poignant lyrics, and you have to like sometimes go deep and like research them. But yeah, it's kind of indie folky.
Yeah, indie folky. Okay.
That's my favorite genre. If you could have dinner with anyone today, who would it be and why?
I would say Jim Carrey.
Yeah,
I think he's hilarious. I loved his movies, but also like recently, I don't know if you have seen, he's an
artist now.
Yeah, he's an artist. Yeah. He's on like a spiritual journey. He's I think he knows something. Like he's got some wisdom, and I would just love to pick his brain. Do you think he listens to this show?
No.
Oh, okay.
Maybe one day.
One day, yeah.
If we say The Mask and all those other movies, like maybe he'll listen.
We'll be trending.
No, have you seen the one where he was painting this really big thing and he like hung above it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the guy is insane. And he only started painting like a couple years ago.
Yeah, and he just like, that's somebody who just went all in. He like turned his whole apartment into just an art studio and just like dove into like painting and like what art means. It's wild.
It's good too.
Yeah.
Like it's not just gibberish. It's good. What's your go-to outside activity in Chattanooga?
I went to recently this past weekend, I went to a waterfall and got to swim like in the bottom of a waterfall and like hike down into it. So I've only done that once, but I'm going to say that's my go-to because that was a really cool experience.
My wife and I have this debate of waterfalls, and is the point of the waterfall the hike or is it the waterfall? And I argue that it's the waterfall and she argues that it's the hike. Yeah. But I'm like, if I can drive up and be at a waterfall, that's the one I'm going to go to. But she's like, no, you have to work for it. I'm like, that's stupid. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think it's the waterfall.
The waterfall. Yeah. The song isn't "Don't go chasing the hike to a waterfall." Exactly. It's "Don't go chasing waterfall."
Yeah, so we're going to contradict our. It's all about the journey, not the destination. Now we're saying no. It's really about the destination.
In the case of waterfalls,
it's different. Waterfalls.
I'm not there to hike. I'm there to swim.
I can go hiking anywhere. See a waterfall.
Exactly. What small business resources are you using in Chattanooga right now?
I've been looking more into the Small Business Development Center and the resources that they have there. I've gone to a couple classes at the Chattery.
Yeah.
And then, I've always been intrigued with the CoLab and like their programs that they offer there. Haven't actually met with anybody there, but definitely interested in like how they can support me. And I've heard a lot of positive things there.
Yeah, we've actually been working with them. We did their Stay Savvy event. Was that May? That was our May seminar.
Yeah.
And we partnered with them on that, and
nice.
they've been working with us on some of these podcasts too. So
Nice.
They're really cool. And actually, this is the SBDC that you're in, this building. The floor we're on is that, and they're really cool.
Yeah, it's a great room.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also HiveThink. You guys have been helping me out tremendously. You're a local resource. Yeah.
Local resource. All right. And the last one. What is an ending quote for our listeners to take home today? Because you have amazing quotes, and I really love them. So I want you to give them one to chew on.
Yeah. Quote we have in our office. Maybe it's not so much a quote. It's just a saying. It's be, do, have. I think so often we get it backwards. Like once I have something, then I'll do this, and then I'll finally be happy or whatever it is. But you have to be that thing that you want to be before you can generally have it. And so how can you just take one step today? How can you do one thing today to just be that person, that future version of yourself that you want to be? And continuously do that every single day. Take one step here and there, one step here and there, and eventually those things are going to start to come into fruition. You're going to start to have the thing that you want to have. So be, do, have.
Be, do, have. I was hoping you were going to say that one. You said it last week, and I was like, okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, good.
All right. Well, that covers our episode of Startup Heroes today. Bryan, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is great. Again, this is Startup Heroes, your local Chattanooga podcast to get the scoop on local small business owners and their stories and origins, kryptonites, and superpowers. This is Chris Wood.
I'm Nate Tucker.
I'm Michael Artizabal.
And our guest today was
Dr. Bryan Stotz.
And thanks for signing on, and we'll see you next time.
This podcast brought to you by HiveThink Media. If you like this podcast and you want to stay in the know of what's going on with us, follow us at HiveThink Media on Instagram or check us out at hivethinkmedia.com. Thank you for listening.